Hey everybody, Tim Lewis with TimLewisSports.com here. We're talking fantasy football. Week 1 is done. An awesome week it was. We're on now to week 2. Just personally for my fantasy football teams, I have 3 of them. 2 of them won, 1 of them lost, and my 2 wins were by squeaky margins. Anyways, looking for better results in week 2. You probably are as well. That's why you're watching this. We're going to talk about players to possibly start, players to possibly drop, and players to possibly pick up along the way as we talk about fantasy football week 2. Injuries obviously opening some doors at the quarterback position. Kevin Kolb went down early for Philadelphia. Michael Vick came in and he played well. He threw for 175 yards and also ran for 103 more. And that was against a good Packers defense. So a viable option. If Kevin Kolb is not going to play, he's not supposed to practice until Friday, which means to me he's not going to play on Sunday. Michael Vick might not be a bad start for your team if you're looking for a quarterback. Shaun Hill now has an opportunity to play in Detroit because Matthew Stafford went down with a separated shoulder. He could be done for nearly 2 months. Yes, Shaun Hill threw the game-winning touchdown pass against Chicago. At least it should have been a touchdown, but it wasn't. But unless you have a 30-team fantasy football league, stay away from Shaun Hill. Alex Smith proved that he's still not worthy of that number 1 overall choice that he was. He's been in the league for a long time. Looked terrible against the Seattle Seahawks as of right now. Stay away from Alex Smith. Now, why does David Garrard never get looked at as a fantasy quarterback? Sure, he doesn't put up stellar numbers, but he's good enough. I'd say pick him up if he's available. Put him on your bench. See how it all plays out. He's a viable option as far as I'm concerned. Start the stars. That's simple when it comes to quarterbacks. If you don't have one, maybe look to Denver's Kyle Orton playing at home against the Seattle Seahawks. Orton kind of my surprise pick for the week. Injuries also opening the door at running back as well. Ryan Grant, Green Bay Packers. A severe ankle injury, will not play this week. That means Brandon Jackson will get the start. Jackson didn't play terrible when he filled in for Ryan Grant last week. He ran for 63 yards, also caught 2 passes for 12 yards as well. Has an opportunity to put up some big numbers against Buffalo this week as well. So Brandon Jackson, if he's available, go ahead and pick him up. I say even start him if you want to. Arian Foster is a stud. That guy was awesome on Sunday. That means anyone who thought Steve Slayton might be a sneaky pick, go ahead and kiss those hopes goodbye. Anyone who doubted LaDainian Tomlinson, me being one of those people, we were dead wrong. Sean Green looked terrible on Monday Night Football. Opened the door for LaDainian Tomlinson, who averaged more than 5 yards per carry against a good Ravens defense. So LaDainian Tomlinson looks to be possibly a valid option. Big surprise to me, I had Jerome Harrison starting for me. I went to Washington State University, so I'm a firm believer in Jerome Harrison. Peyton Hillis, where did that come from for Cleveland? And I'm asking the coaching staff right now, why Peyton Hillis? The dude fumbled a couple times. Give Jerome Harrison a chance. Doesn't look like he's going to get it. I don't want to say that he's not going to get it, but after week 1, he did not get the carries that I thought he would, didn't get the action that I thought he would. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield. So Jerome Harrison, I'm wavering on Jerome Harrison right now, and I don't think Peyton Hillis is anyone to pick up. Ahmad Bradshaw was expected to start for the New York Giants. Looks like he's going to carry the bulk of the weight. Brandon Jacobs, unless something drastic changes, looks like his fantasy days are pretty much done. Going to wide receiver, the Oklahoma connection looks like it will benefit Mark Clayton. Sam Bradford played with Mark Clayton at Oklahoma. Looks like that's where he's comfortable. Clayton, 10 receptions last weekend. I'm guessing he'll probably do similar things as the season goes on. Mike Sims-Walker, I almost put him on my all-bust team, but I didn't put him on there. Looks like he might have fit. Held without a catch last week. I'm guessing he'll bounce back, but I don't think he's ever going to be the star that everyone thought he was going to be. Andre Johnson, Deshaun Jackson, both struggled. I have both on my team. That's why it's simple for me to point these 2 guys out. It hurt me. I still won on that team, but both will be fine as the season wears on. Didn't have good weeks in week 1. Concerned for Calvin Johnson. I didn't think he was going to be able to do a whole lot with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. Now that Shaun Hill is there, I'm really worried about Calvin Johnson. He was targeted quite a bit, especially late in the game when they were looking for a touchdown, but I don't know what's going to happen with Calvin Johnson. I'd say be a little bit wary about that. How about Hakeem Nicks? I had him on my bench for one of my teams. 3 touchdown receptions. Looks like he's going to be the go-to guy for the New York Giants. Wes Welker also looks healthy, and he looks like he's ready to produce for fantasy football teams. He scored 2 touchdowns, also had 8 receptions. The guy is a stud when it comes to point per reception leagues. I picked up Jabbar Gaffney for Denver. Before the season started, got me a touchdown. last week. He looks to be the number one receiver for Kyle Orton in Denver. I'm guessing he could put up some good numbers against the Seattle defense again this week. Now, was it just me or were tight ends scoring like crazy on Sunday? I was watching the Red Zone channel. Here was Bo Scaife. Here's Mercedes Lewis, Jermaine Gresham. All these highlights were tight ends scoring touchdowns. Lewis is the guy I have most faith in. He scored 2 touchdowns, but he also only had about 31 yards receiving for Jacksonville. So he might score touchdowns. He's not going to get you a lot of yardage, but Mercedes Lewis, of the surprise tight ends after week 1, would be the guy that I'd go with. You still want to go with Antonio Gates, Dallas Clark, Jermichael Finley. All those are still your top options. If you have them, you're lucky because other people are scrounging for a tight end. If you are scrounging for a tight end, I'd say one of the options to look for is Tony Scheffler in Detroit. Again, possibly Bo Scaife in Tennessee. The 49ers defense looked like a joke against the Seahawks, while the Seahawks defense looked awesome against the 49ers. I don't expect that to be the trend as the season goes on, but who knows in a wild NFC West. The Jets and Ravens both looked stellar on defense on Monday Night Football. That's a trend that will continue. Now, you'll probably hear me say this week in and week out when it comes to defenses. If you're looking for a D, pick the team that's playing against the Rams or the Lions. That means the Raiders. Yes, the Raiders defense could be a viable option this week, and I'm sure the Eagles defense is already snatched up, so it doesn't really help you there. The Panthers could also be a solid choice this week against Tampa Bay. I hope that helps. Anybody has a question for me about fantasy football? I love answering questions. You can ask me about anything. It doesn't have to be fantasy football or anything. You can get in touch with me in several different ways. You can leave a comment on my website, timlewissports.com. You can also reach me on Twitter at Lewis Sports, Lewis Sports. You can also hit me up on my Facebook page. A little bit harder to find, like I say, every time I do one of these video blogs. All you have to do is search Tim Lewis, look for the smiling face. You find the page. It's a lot of fun on there. People commenting about all sorts of things, not limited to 140 characters like you are on Twitter. So a better chance to interact on Facebook there. You can also email me at timlewissports.com. Again, I'm wide open for questions about fantasy football or anything you want to ask me about the world of sports, about fitness and dieting. I've lost about 40 pounds over the last 4.5 months. I'm not an expert by any means, but I can provide maybe an answer to a question that you have. And if not, I have a friend who's a personal trainer. I can always turn to him as well. Nothing better than free advice from a personal trainer. Anyways, video blog is done. Good luck in fantasy football week 2. If you haven't already, I'm not really sure how you find this if you didn't. Check out timlewissports.com. It's a great website. I'm a little bit biased, but check it out. I'll talk to you soon.